Coming up on show 793, when even the boss has to queue at Superchargers. But the crowd did get to hang with Elon. Stick around and I'll give you details. Plus on the show today, how Tesla have solved the freezing door handle issue from Model 3 to Model Y. A new plug-in hybrid from Toyota coming next year. Powerful as well. The Mercedes-Benz Eqc will compare the initial sales targets to how they're doing. And the new Audi CEO is setting up a new project for electric vehicles. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're listening in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily, the edition for Friday 29th of May. My name is Martyn Lee, going through every EV story so you don't have to. Thank you as always to myev.com for helping make the show in the US. If you've been through this period of stay at home and lockdown, whatever you're calling it, if you've been doing some more window shopping for cars, I dare say you've been having a look through all the cars you can find, all the EVs at myev.com. Enjoy that. Well, great news comes from California, where despite the general market slowdown, some electric cars have been noting brilliant sales results. We're looking at the data here for the first quarter of the year, so January, February, March of 2020, and the number one spot, the number one car on sale in the first quarter of the year, not number one electric, not number one, in brackets, certain category, the number one car sold was electric. And you can probably guess what the car was as well. According to the California New Car Dealers Association, the overall market was just over 500,000, 507,000 cars sold in quarter one, which is down, but forecast for this year not looking great in California because of the recovery from the virus. According to InsideEVs, however, electric cars are the one shining light in this whole story. 4 all-electric cars are now in the forefront of their categories, and 2 of them are number one. The 2 number one cars are the Tesla Model 3, which is number one in the near luxury category with a 52% share, and the Chevrolet Bolt EV, that is number one in the subcompact category. Bolt is such a great car that I think gets overlooked sometimes. And the Model X from Tesla was number 3 in the luxury mid-size SUV category with a 10% share, and the Model S was number 3 in luxury and high-end sports cars with a 12% share. But here's the big story, really. I've been saving the best until last. The best-selling car in the first quarter of the year in California. Well, we were looking at the numbers as they were coming in, and we were thinking, is it going to be tight? Is it going to be just a handful of cars? In the end, it was a clear, decisive victory. The number one car in California is indeed an electric car. It's the first placed amongst all types of cars, not only passenger cars, but in here are SUVs and trucks as well. And the number one is, of course, the all-electric Tesla Model 3. And it beats out some names which are just giant sellers. So Tesla Model 3 was number one in California in Q1. It sold 18,856 models. However, in second place, 850 behind, was the Honda Civic. Now, the Honda Civic is a beast of a seller, and a lot cheaper as well. May I add. The Camry was third, RAV4 was fourth, Toyota Corolla fifth, Honda Accord sixth as well. And so you've got those big beasts in there. Civics, Camrys, Corollas, Accords, cars that people have been buying in their droves and always will do because they're great cars. And an electric car is number one of that list. And it's great because whatever happens in California can be seen in other places as well. Not everywhere, but lots of places do kind of copy California, things like the rules and legislation. And so hopefully we can get some more electric cars sold across the US, not just in California. Well, in his recent video released to YouTube, the channel Jerry Rig Everything has pointed out that the Model Y, the Tesla Model Y door handles, are very slightly different to the Model 3, well, at the last time he checked them anyway, because although they're visually identical, what I guess I've never seen reported before now, and if it has, apologies for that, but he tried it, and fair play, maybe it's a new thing that's on just the Model Y that he had, but the door handles feature improvements that make them less prone to be stuck in ice. Now, Tesla designed the Model Y door handle so they can physically be pressed on both sides. So at the minute with the Model 3 door handles, they're completely flush and you push in one side. It's levered from the middle, so as you push in one side, the other end comes out and you grab that with your hand and pull on it, and the electrical release opens the door. Well, in some very cold climates and some bad weather that even places like here would have, the door handles have been known to ice up and you can't get into your car apart from some ingenious tweaks and things that you can do to ensure that it doesn't happen. According to Teslarati, the door handles have now been updated on the Model Y, and so people don't have to preheat their vehicle to melt away the ice anymore, but you can just rock the door handle, as it were, like rock it from left to right. It doesn't go left too much on the driver's door, not as much as it goes in the opposite direction, like normal, if I'm explaining that right, but it is enough just to, if there is ice, you can wiggle it both ways, and that will clear it, and then you can open up the door handle. Nice little sensible, cheap way, mechanical way of dealing with what was an issue. I'm glad they're not doing things like putting in heated door handles and things, because they're keeping the price down of these cars. But one thing that has been added to the Model Y, which I didn't know either, was a heated charging port. Again, it proactively avoids ice from building up. Has been an issue in Model 3 for some people in very cold climates. Do go check out the video, though, that Jerry Rig Everything has put on YouTube, because he's got two cars in the Arctic Circle. He's got a 3 and a Y, and the semi-truck as well, and they're there working with Tesla on extreme conditions, and he's been allowed to film for his channel, by the look of it. When I watched it earlier, that's what he seemed to be suggesting. I think I understood it correctly, that he's there with them, working for them, and was allowed to film the test vehicles that he was in. Anyway, it did look very, very cold. Go check out the video. Well, moving on to Toyota, and the new RAV4 Prime price has been announced. Well, Toyota dropped a bit of a surprise last November at the LA Auto Show. Not that they were going to make a new, updated plug-in version of the RAV4 called the RAV4 Prime, but that was expected. But the specs were 302 horsepower. Combined between the combustion engine and the electric motor as well. 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds. It's not slow. In fact, it's very, very rapid for a car like that. And we now know how much it's going to cost to have a hot rods Toyota SUV that's also pretty efficient. According to Motor One, the Toyota RAV4 Prime starts at $38,100, not including the $1,100 destination and delivery charges. It's still under 40 grand though, and with that upcharge factored in, it does make it the most expensive RAV4 that Toyota offers, but also tons of performance. And of course, as we always say, electric cars are better. And if you want to take what was a good car, the Toyota RAV4, and make it better, add some electrics to it, but proper electrics, Toyota. They've put a plug socket on. They've put a battery on that'll do, I haven't made a note of it in my notes here in front of me. I think it's 41 or 42 miles, a pure electric range. That is enough to get people hooked on electric. But with that backup of the combustion engine for those that aren't ready to go for a full electric car, yeah, I totally understand that, but the important thing is that if they're making electric vehicles at Toyota, they're doing it with a plug socket. Even though they still run the ads in this country which say, we choose not to plug in, and they still bitch and moan and whine about plug sockets, but there we go. I guess we live in a global media these days, and we can easily see adverts from different countries. It's almost like we can go on the internet and see that they are making plug-in cars, whereas over here they're still talking them down and promoting their soft hybrid technology. Looking forward to a time when they do get back up to speed, at least here as well, and can drop those silly adverts. Right, let's talk about Mercedes-Benz Eqc. How does it match up against the targets which they initially set? Now, the Mercedes-Benz Eqc has been talked about for years. It is a compelling car. For those that want luxury, it's a Mercedes-Benz crossover. It's the right size for many people in terms of the luxury. It's well spec'd as well. It was supposed to launch in the US as well soon, if not already, but the EV has been delayed until 2021, sadly. Maybe once the EQC is available in the US, it's going to find some more success. I hope so. I love being inside the Mercedes-Benz Eqc. It's a nice place to sit, and I've only been in one, but it was just everything that you would want from a car that you spent that much money from. Albeit, I know what you're going to say, the electric side of it is not as efficient as perhaps it could be, but still a very, very... The old door slam test, it's a thud, right? That's a luxury car. But in the meantime, according to Germany's Federal Motor Transport Authority, they only sold 397 EQCs in 2019, followed by 276 in Germany so far this year. And that strikes me as not the most amount of cars in what is their home country, in what is a place where Germany should be snapping up great electric Mercedes-Benz. They've not officially reported those sales figures, by the way, so they could be even worse, but they could be better. The situation is clearly far off what they used to talk about. In terms of the targets, they were going to make 50,000 EQCs every single year. Now, despite the global pandemic, EV sales have been very respectable, as we've been talking about on the podcast for a long time now. They've not been astounding because people haven't been buying as many cars, and sometimes they've not physically been able to go to the dealers to actually buy them, so they're sitting on the cash ready to go, or sitting on at least the decision or the finance. Well, in Germany and Europe, we are expecting the car dealerships to start to post more positive EV news, even more than it has been, as people get back into buying cars. Car dealerships opening here in 3 days' time, 1st of June, at least in the UK, at least post-lockdown. Over the last year, Audi sold 4,500 e-trons. In Germany, of course, this is. Tesla sold almost 9,000 Model 3s in Germany. So the EQC has a way to go to kind of catch up with those cars. And I wonder why. I just wonder what they're doing. I did have a look online, by the way, today to try and get under the sort of skin of what Mercedes-Benz are doing. So I went to the Mercedes-Benz UK website /EQC, because EQC is their sub-brand, and the landing page for their electric to buy the Mercedes-Benz EQC doesn't even show you the car. It shows you a weirdo concept car that they think will identify the brand in 10 years' time or something. So maybe that was just me or the page that I landed on, but I was like, okay, well, how do I buy the car? Like, it's great that you're telling me, welcome to brand EQC. This is what Mercedes will be in a certain amount of time. But I really thought that actually, if I'm going to the landing page of their electrification efforts of the UK website, it should be, here's a great car and here's how to buy it. And a big button that says, buy it. But I had to really hunt for the car. And that was perhaps not ideal, but maybe there's a better page that I could have been looking at. So that's the only thing. I was like, well, it's nice you're talking up these kind of concept cars and design things, but I just want to buy a car. It wasn't the easiest thing to do on their UK website. So, headline story today, when even the boss has to queue. There's a user on Twitter, goes by the name of Raf, or RAF, Raf Fiol, and his at Raf_Fiol. And I saw a tweet from him that said, I just met Elon Musk at a Supercharger and he talked to me. This was after the scrubbed SpaceX launch yesterday. I was at the Melbourne, Florida Supercharger. I was standing next to my car when a white Model X backed into a stall 2 cars down. I looked over as the passenger door opens and I see Elon Musk get out and start walking towards me. I was obviously surprised, and he definitely sees my surprise. I blurted out, Elon? And he smiled and walked towards me. He said something along the lines of, thank you for being a Tesla owner and supporting our mission. Well, a small crowd then began to form around us. We talked about the scrubbed launch, the Model Y, auto insurance in Florida, and then someone else interrupted and talked about the birth of his son, and he looked over to the Model X that he'd arrived in and said, thank you, he's in the car. Then the Falcon doors opened on the Model X, and his partner Grimes came out to hand him a mask, which he put in his pocket. And she went back into the car. He stayed and talked to us for 15 minutes. He was super friendly and was genuinely interested to hear what people had to say. He's a super duper cool guy, says Raf. It was an absolutely amazing experience. He arrived in a white Model X, followed by another white Model X. And no, he didn't get super special treatment. He did have to queue with everybody else before he could supercharge. And so even when you own 20% of the company, even when you are basically the face of Tesla and SpaceX, and you come to a supercharging station where there's a queue of, there's 2 or 3 people, I think, in front of him, they still waited in line and he still queued. I mean, I guess his people could have got out and said to the Tesla drivers there, look, Elon's behind the darkened glass, do you mind? And I'm sure people would have gone, oh, hey, look, no, hey, I'm in no hurry. Or somebody might have said, well, look, I'm just here heading home. I'm not in a hurry. He can have my space in the queue, but he didn't. He queued like everybody else, and fair play. One thing that I haven't seen reported, of course, this was picked up by all the EV blogs and the news as well. One thing I've seen nobody make a mention of, though, I'll pop a link in the show notes to the Twitter account and all the pictures that people are posting. If you look, in the background, there is a row of men standing with their arms behind their backs, sunglasses on, black suits, and that's clearly Elon's security duty, right? That must be, because they just look like security guys. They weren't close up enough in the photos to have a look so they've got the earpieces in, but I reckon they did as well. And that kind of makes sense, because when you're a billionaire and when you are so high profile, you are always going to be at risk of being targeted by absolute wallies and morons out there who, for whatever reason, just, if you're Elon, you probably got to have security. And so that's what I found interesting as well. It wasn't the main point of the story, but as I was staring at the pictures today, writing this story for the podcast, I was thinking, hang on a minute, look at that line of people in the back. There's you can spot 3 of them, and they're very much trying to blend into the background, but they're clearly his armed guards, who obviously travel everywhere with him in an identical car. And obviously Elon had the fam there as well for the aborted SpaceX mission, and taking his baby with him as well, which is a very cool story. And interesting that he didn't just come out, sign some autographs and disappear back inside the car and with the blacked out windows and have his people shoo people away. He stood and talked to people, and that is essential market research, isn't it, from someone who does put himself front and centre for good and bad as well. Okay, let's move on. Well, 2 months after taking office as the new CEO at Audi, Marcus Duisman is establishing a unit for the accelerated development of additional automobile models. Well, Artemis is the name of the new Audi unit, and Artemis is going to focus on new technologies for EVs. And its first task is to create a highly efficient EV that will be on the market in 2024. According to Green Car Congress, the team will work with automotive and technology experts as a first step, developing a pioneering model, they say, for Audi to work quickly, and the phrase they use is unbureaucratically. He says Marcus Duisman, resources and technology of the entire VW group are available for this special project. He and the Volkswagen Group colleagues expect the Artemis project to provide a blueprint for future agile development of EVs throughout the entire VW group. Sounds to me like something that Ford did to develop the Mach-E. The Mach-E was largely done by a small group of people who were given, I think, freedom to do what you want, speak to who you want, use what resources you want, and get the Mach-E out there in super quick time. Sounds like Audi are doing something similar. And good luck to them as well. It's always a little frustrating when you see timelines like 2024, because we all just, eager. But it'll be here before you know it. And also, it's a reminder as well that these are the timescales these big car companies work to. It's not a case of, right, you've got 6 months, go and do it. It's, as much as we'd like, great, the next generation of EVs to be on the market now, it's certainly what they're working on. Interesting phrase as well. A highly efficient electric car is the phrase they use of what the group have been tasked to make. So maybe some of the criticism around the Audi e-tron, the early criticism, which was that it wasn't as efficient, and it is a heavy car, but it's a luxury car, that's the thing. So maybe that's what they been stung a little bit by that, and they're gonna make a name for themselves in efficiency. We'll wait and see, but another great thing to follow that storyline on this podcast. And final story today, the companies Magnix and Aerotech have announced the successful maiden flights. Congratulations to the team for the world's largest all-electric aircraft. It's an all-electric Cessna a Cessna Grand Caravan 208B. It had a half-hour flight in Washington, and it went without a hitch, says ElecDrive website, where the aircraft is an 18-year-old Cessna, which was converted to pure electric propulsion for the flight with electric motors, and the goal is to be able to fly 160 Ks with a full load by the end of 2021. The Cessna Grand Caravan can carry 14 passengers instead of the 4 to 5 in the electric version at present. But when they get new batteries and a switch to other fuels, even like a fuel cell, means you can get more passengers in there as well. And although you may have seen, they say it's the biggest production plane to have ever gone flying on pure electric power, I've seen those over the years as well, like those solar planes, either like NASA planes or world record-breaking planes with huge wingspans covered in solar panels, and they're pure electric. They made the point of, this is a production aircraft which now flies on pure electric power for half an hour. It's a big step, and it's the next step in all-electric flight, which is going to be so crucial in the next decade for short-haul flights. This isn't going to be replacing your trip halfway around the world anytime soon, but for those shorter flights, either hybrid technology or some sort of form of electrification, it's going to be really, really important in terms of emissions and where those planes can fly. Okay, question of the week this week, which I'll read out your answers on Sunday's show. What are your desired specs for an electric pickup? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And you can email me hello@evnewsdaily.com or leave a comment on the YouTube show. Thank you to 227 patrons of the podcast. Premium partners are Phil Roberts of Electric Future, Brad Crosby, Avid Technology, Brightsmith Group for Clean Tech Talent, Porsche of the Village Cincinnati, and Audi of Cincinnati East. And a new name to add before the 1st of June, which of course is your Patreon billing date. A new name to add to the list as well, which I'm excited about. You can find out what the details are all about at patreon.com, patreon.com/evnewsdaily. Catch up on socials by searching EV News Daily and come and say hi. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow, and remember, there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.